Welcome everybody to update number 53. So it's been nearly a month since I did my last update, which was on the 14th of June. But yeah, since then I have gained quite a few extras into my collection. A few new ones, but mostly releases that came out a while ago that were featured on sales. Vinegar Syndrome had a sale, 101 Films had a sale, so yeah, definitely picked up some of their films as well. But yeah, some of these, like I said, are new releases. One of which is from 2022, Pearl. So yeah, this was the prequel to X, which I already have, and yeah, even though I didn't enjoy it quite as much as X, because prequels typically have some of the tension, zapped out of it, because the lead character, for instance, they're going to survive because they wouldn't be in the next film or the original film. So yeah, it does lose a bit of tension in that regard, but it's still a great film. Looks excellent. Mia Goth is superb in the lead role. And yeah, it's overall a really rather engrossing effort. So yeah, it's one I really rather highly recommend. And I'm highly looking forward to the third and final film in the X series, which is going to be called Maxine, set in the 80s. So after X and after this one. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And once again, Mia Goth is going to be in that one. And one of my favourite films of the year so far, even though it was released well before this year elsewhere in the world, but in the UK it was only released this year, and that is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Bit of a tongue twister there, but yeah, fantastic stop motion animated film. Although to be honest, only the shells are actually stop motion animated. The rest of the film is actually live action, but it's really rather seamless in terms of its execution in that regard. And yeah, it's a really rather cute film. It's funny, and yeah, highly recommend it if you're into any of your more low budget kind of fare. No, it's not, quite as good as, say, something like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which I personally preferred a little bit more, but it does a lot on such a small budget, and yeah, really, really impressive as a reason for that, as well as despite that as well. So yeah, excellent film. And then a new release celebrating its 25th anniversary is The Truman Show on 4K. So yeah, bit of a surprise that it's taken this long for this to come out on 4K, but at least I've chosen the right moment and bring it out on its 25th anniversary. Although it is a little bit of a shame it's not had a more special edition version, because all you get with this is a slipcover really. So yeah, but you do get some extras. Not sure if these are extras that are have been on previous releases. So on the Blu-ray disc, you do get How's It Going to the End, the making of the Truman Show, full finishing, the visual effects of the Truman Show, deleted scenes, and photo gallery. And so forth. So yeah, but it's still an excellent film. Not yet seen it on this 4K release. Just haven't had the time to fit in any rewatches at the moment. But it's easily one of the best films of the 90s, and certainly one of my favourite films of the 90s. And yeah, definite change of pace for Jim Carrey, who obviously had been known for his more exuberant comedic style with the likes of Ace Ventura films and Liar Liar. But yeah, even though I do like those films, this is easily one of his best, if not his absolute best. And yeah, well worth watching if you haven't already. Somehow, if you haven't seen it already. And then we move on to Kino Lover, who got another one of their film noir, The Dark Side of Cinema box sets. This one's number 5 in the series. And yeah, has 3 films. So we've got Because of You, starring Loretta Young and Jeff Chandler. Not seen any of these yet, but they're all short, so I should get around to them eventually. And then we have Outside the Law. Not familiar with any of the casts off the top of my head, but it is directed by Jack Arnold, who did Creature of the Black Lagoon, as well as I think he did Incredible Shrinking Man as well. And yeah, I love those films. I'm a big fan of his sci-fi films. I think I've only watched one of his other film noir efforts, but that was pretty good as well. So I'm hoping this one is just as good as that. And finally, starring Tony Curtis, we have The Midnight Story. Not familiar again with the rest of the cast, but obviously I'm familiar with Tony Curtis. And yeah, it does look like another solid film. And again, it's a short one. It's 90 minutes, so it shouldn't take very long to get around to that one. Right, these next lot are all more, well-known boutique labels, especially in the UK. So firstly, from Indicator, we have Absolution. So this was on sale, I believe. I'm not sure if it was going out of print or not, but there was something that spurred me on to buy it. Saw it a while ago, really rather enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 as far as I'm concerned. Got a really good cast with Richard Burton and Billy Connolly, and yeah, it's well directed by Anthony Page, and yeah, I'm pretty sure when I watched it, it was from this version, so it looks pretty good as well in its new 2K restoration. Although it came out in 2018, this release, so it's not a brand new release, and yet still got one with the limited edition booklet on it as well. So yeah, which has cast and crew, and then you got Full of the Devil by Neil Sinyard from 2018, and then you've got Anthony Schaefer on Absolution, and then you got Absolution, the alternative ending, critical response at the time, and then you've just got like shots from the film as well. Yeah, which is a really weird mix of genres, to be honest. There's horror there, there's drama, there's, you know, religion and all that. So yeah, it's all overall a really rather good film, but don't go into it expecting a full-blown horror, even though, you know, it's called like Absolution and the like, and it's hardly a low-rated film at an 18 certificate. It's not a full-blown horror, but it definitely has horror elements to it. And then from Radiance, purely because it was going out of print. In fact, they brought out about they found a few editions of it, so I thought, screw it, let's just snap it up and hopefully I'll enjoy it, and I certainly did. It's easily one of my favourites that Radiance Films have released so far, and that is The Sunday Woman. So yeah, this is number 4 in Radiance Films releases, and yeah, like I said, easily one of my favourites so far. Pretty much matches the likes of The Man on the Roof and The Iron Prefect, which are 2 of my other favourites so far from them. And yeah, basically an Italian kind of version of an Agatha Christie film adaptation. Obviously, this did come out after Murder on the Orient Express, but it doesn't feel like a knockoff to that film or any of the other subsequent Agatha Christie adaptations. So yeah, and it's got a really, really fantastic score by Ennio Morricone. Really good cinematography. The cast is great. The plot is engrossing, and the ending is just pure tension. So yeah, highly recommend it if you've not seen it already. So yeah, the booklet has cast and crew: The Sunday Woman by Mariangela Sansoni, and then you got A Fable Without Morality by Gerard Legrand, and then about the transfer and the credits. I won't show you one particular picture in this booklet because it's the murder weapon for the first murder. It's a very interesting murder weapon, to say that. I can't believe I've seen any other film with that murder weapon, to be honest, used in it. So yeah, it's a very strange murder weapon to use, but yeah, overall it's a very good looking film, and there's one of the cast members as well. So yeah, highly recommend that if you haven't got it already. And then a new-ish release from 88 Films, Knife of Ice. So this is the standard version. Not sure if there was a limited edition version, but they did specifically say on an email that the standard editions of this and a couple of other films were coming out. So yeah, if there was a limited edition version of this, then I've clearly missed it, but it's still got the 2K transfer from the original negative. And yeah, it's directed by Umberto Lenzi, who I've seen stuff from before that I've enjoyed. And yeah, it's another Giallo film as well, so hopefully can't go too wrong on this one. So yeah, really looking forward to it, but especially since I enjoyed So Sweet, So Perverse by Lenzi himself, so hopefully it's as good as, if not better than that. And then from Signal 1, I have one of their older releases, which is Cherry 2000. Wasn't on sale, but I saw a video of someone reviewing it on YouTube, so and it got me interested in it, because when I watched one of their other videos that they did on another film, I ended up getting that and rather enjoyed it, so figured I may as well get this one as well. Doesn't sound quite as good as that other film, but yeah, still sounds interesting enough. It looks like a decent enough action film that isn't particularly long. It's less than 100 minutes, so yeah, shouldn't be too much of a waste of a time if I don't enjoy it. And then one of the newer releases, I think this came out a few weeks ago, it is Wanted, Dead or Alive. Not the song by Bon Jovi, but starring Rutger Hauer in a action film, basically, starring Gene Simmons of all people alongside him. Not the best action film in the world by any means. It's a little bit tame in some regards, but it's still overall a really rather entertaining film. And yeah, Rutger Hauer is always a joy to watch on the screen as far as I'm concerned, no matter what film is in, no matter how bad or good. And then 101 Films, like I said, had a sale on, so I bought 4 of their releases, one of which also stars Rutger Hauer in Split Second. So this is set in London in 2008. Yeah, so obviously not London right now, or back even in 2008 as we know it. But yeah, set in London in 2008, which is basically flooded from climate change and heavy rains. And yeah, basically Rutger Hauer's chasing down a killer of sorts. And yeah, it's got a really, really good cast going alongside it. A lot of British character actors, as well as Kim Cattrall and Alistair Duncan. So yeah, it's a really rather good, solid film. Not perfect by any means. If you're not into your more low budget, lesser known kind of films, then you might not well enjoy it. But weirdly enough, on this release, it does have the Japanese cut of the film, which is in full frame with burnt in Japanese subtitles. But then it also has deleted scenes from the Japanese cut, again with burnt in subtitles. So yeah, not sure how that differs from the standard film. The standard film clocks in at an hour and a half. So yeah, we'll be definitely interested to see what the Japanese version is like, especially since it's also on Blu-ray. So yeah, it should look decent enough. And then we have one of the kind of titles that you could easily put into another genre of film, and that is Raw Force. So yeah, first ever film I bought with Cameron Mitchell in it, who is in his, well, in this period was in his I'll take a check for any old film. And yeah, but it sounds pretty mental. Welcome to Warriors Island, burial ground of disgraced martial arts masters. When the Burbank Kung Fu Club travels to this mysterious island, they quickly find themselves facing the bloodthirsty vengeance of flesh-ripping, kung fu fighting zombies, gun-toting white slave traders, and a band of strange monks, who may be the only key to explaining the madness. So yeah, sounds pretty nuts. And yeah, it's not particularly long at 96 minutes. So yeah, like I said, this, along with the other 101 films, was on sale, so not spent too much to find out what this is like. And second to last from 101 films, we have a David Cronenberg film, Existence. So yeah, got a good cast. You got Jennifer Jason Leigh, you've got Jude Law, Ian Holm, Willem Dafoe, Christopher Eccleston, and Sarah Polley. So a really rather stacked cast, but I can't say I've ever heard of it. And I've heard of most of David Cronenberg's films, so yeah, not sure what it's going to be about or what it's going to even be like, but hopefully it's going to be good. David Cronenberg has rarely let me down, and even with the films that I've been a bit more lukewarm with, I still, at the end of the day, been able to respect them for what they've been able to achieve. And then finally, from 101 Films, we have Vincent Price in the Dr. Goldfoot collection. So yeah, I rarely buy Vincent Price films that aren't horror, because typically even though he is always great, no matter what he's in, the films that he is in that aren't horror films aren't always all that perfect. So, but yeah, this will hopefully not be the case with these, but they are comedy films. So it's got Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, and Dr. Goldfoot and the Girl Bombs. Plus, you have on DVD Master of the World, which is a more sci-fi film. So yeah, the first two are obviously comedy films with those kind of titles. But yeah, still looking forward to seeing them, because more Vincent Price is always good. I've already seen Master of the World, which is actually a fairly decent sci-fi film. But yeah, I'm just pleased to have 3 more Vincent Price films in my collection, to be honest, and he's easily one of the most prolific actors I have in terms of my collection. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing those from him. And finally, from Vinegar Syndrome, who I haven't bought much from before. In fact, I've only had 3 of their releases so far, which were Crusoe, Beast of the Amazon, The Cat Creeps, and the Carlos Enrique Taboada collection. So, not much from them, but I've definitely now bumped up my collection. Hang on a minute, my camera's looking a bit on the slippy side. So, yeah, let's take a look at the ones I got. So, firstly, we got from the VSL range, which is the Vinegar Syndrome Lab range, which is where The Cat Creeps and Crusoe Beast of the Amazon was from. Somehow I missed this despite coming out right slap bang in between 2 of them, and that is Flesh and Fantasy. which has a really rather nice cover on the reverse and on the front. So yeah, this is a pretty stacked cast to go alongside it, with its really rather nice slipcover. So it's an anthology film, the first horror anthology film in America, predating Dead of Night by a few years, but it's only mildly horror. It's more like just like supernatural in some regards. But yeah, you've got the likes of Edward G. Robinson, you've got Barbara Stanwyck and Charles Boyer, who also co-produced co-produced the whole thing. You've got cinematography by Stanley Cortez, who also did The Night of the Hunter, a fantastic film, and lushly scored by Oscar nominee Alexander Tansman. And yeah, overall a really rather good anthology film. 3 stories. The first one is good, the second one is excellent, and the third one is good. So yeah, it doesn't start and end in the best ways possible, but it definitely has an excellent middle ground with that second effort. So yeah, and that second effort does start Edward G. Robinson, and that's probably why, on the whole, I do really rather like that one over the other ones. And then we have, in a standard release, so no slipcover with this one, unfortunately, but it is Sudden Fury. So this sounds like a Hitchcock film. It even says it's an underseen Hitchcockian kind of thriller. I'll read you the premise just because it sounds really rather interesting. Fred and his wife Janet have been experiencing problems in their marriage, but when she refuses him to help him fund the building of Aurora Resort, and subsequently reveals that she's had an affair, Fred snaps, stages a car accident on a country road and leaving Janet for dead. What seems like a perfect crime, disguised as an accident, is spoiled by the unexpected arrival of Al, an innocent passerby who, in his attempt to save Janet, quickly finds himself fingered as the most likely suspect in her murder. So yeah, it sounds really, really interesting, to be honest. And it comes on Blu-ray and DVD. Not that I'm particularly fussed about watching a DVD over a Blu-ray version, but yeah. Look, sounds really good. It's had a 2K restoration from its original 16mm negative, and yeah, doesn't star anyone I've heard of before, but quite frankly, I feel like I need to branch out from just, the kind of named stars. But going completely against that is Freeway, starring Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland. And then again, another really rather nicely done slipcover. But this one is the first one I've had from Vinegar Syndrome that is in 4K. So yeah, looking forward to seeing this one, even though it sounds a little bit on the exploitation side. But yeah, it's got the uncut presentation of the film, and you get it on Blu-ray as well as 4K. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Heard good things from it from some people. And then we have another one in a really rather nice slipcover, The Severed Arm, which yeah, has a really rather nice feel to it, especially with the writing on the back there. 5 victims cannot stop him, cannot escape the slashing fury, the sound of terror. So yeah, this one again has an interesting premise like Sudden Fury. So basically, while camping, a group of friends become trapped in a cave. Desperate and starving, they draw straws to decide which one should suffer the severing of his arm so the others can eat. But no sooner than making this fateful amputation, they're rescued, though their unfortunate victim has been driven hopelessly mad by this experience. Years later, the survivors have all moved on with their lives. That is until someone with a very sharp axe to grind begins stalking them and chopping their arms off, one by one. So, yeah, sounds like an early slasher, because this is from 1973, so that's a good 5 years before Halloween. And yeah, sounds like a really interesting premise, to be honest, and hopefully it's executed in a good way as well. Second to last, we have a double feature with Nothing Underneath. Again, a really nice slipcover. And then Too Beautiful to Die, which is the spiritual follow-up, although only really in name only, to Nothing Underneath. So, yeah, both giallo films, both in the later stages of the genre's heyday, because this is a good couple of years after the likes of Tenebrae. But yeah, still, sounds like a really rather interesting pairing of films. Hopefully Too Beautiful to Die isn't just put on there because they had the access to it, and it is actually a genuinely good film in its own right. And then finally, with probably my favourite slipcover of the bunch from Vinegar Syndrome, is The Cellar. I absolutely adore that artwork. it sells the film. Basically, it does what a lot of VHS covers back in the day did, which is trying to sell the film. And I love that the eyes, as you can see, are reflective, and it's got a nice reverse cover, which only really makes sense if you've heard of the film or listened to the premise. But yeah, excellent cover, and hopefully it's an equally excellent film from 1989, clocking at 86 minutes long. So newly scanned and restored in 2K from its 35mm original camera negative, and the director's personal 35mm lab print. So there's two versions of the film. So yeah, it's both in its theatrical cut as well as a never before seen and vastly superior original director's cut. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing this. Pretty much like all the other ones, to be honest. And yeah, hopefully it'll be good. So yeah, that's everything I've gotten since the last update, basically, outside of obviously the ones that I bought and done reviews on. Like the Arrow video box set that we've looked at most of the films at so far. And yeah, and other releases besides that one. But yeah, still, it's been a fantastic time since the last update. The Vinegar Syndrome ones have easily been my favourites of the bunch so far, in terms of ones that I've bought in the last month or so. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing all the films that I've yet to see from this lot. So yeah, if you've seen any of these films before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on them. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.